Hello. So I haven't made a video in a while, and I was gonna make like a update to the one that I made about Porno, and all I really wanted to say about that was just that I'm not anti-porn. Like, I don't have an issue with it as long as everything's consensual and like lawful, then sweet. Addiction, I have an issue with that, and my particular addiction for most of my life has been that. So that's where the like sort of negative energy might be felt in terms of that. But I actually want to build a healthier relationship with it, with porn or erotica or whatever you want to call it, like sexy pictures, mainly videos now on the interwebs. Pictures is probably a bit more 90s. Yeah, that's all that needs to be said about that, really. Not like an entire video. So now I'm back on St. Bart's Island in the Caribbean, French West Indies, French overseas territory, which is where I was a year ago. And given that this channel is supposed to be mainly about psychosis, yeah, I figure I should talk about my I don't know if it's my most recent episode of Psychosis, but the one that most major, let's say, which involves an island. So to give some sort of backstory, but so a year ago I was asked by a wealthy individual who I worked for before to come and work on the island and help them out with their personal and business situations, which were pretty complicated. I was really excited. It's cool for me because it meant that it was a job that would involve like it shouldn't be the A, although when your bank balance is a bit messy, then often it is. So yeah, paid. Well, I didn't, because I never got there, but was to be well paid. Beautiful island. Meant that I would be able to do lots of things that are I think important for my kind of like health, both mental and physical. So like free diving, learning to surf, sailing, water sports, perhaps of both varieties if we're tracking back to the previous conversation, and healing as well, because my employer was very ill and would have needed a great deal of healing. I mean, I think they were looking at it as more palliative care. I was more interested in the possibility of healing, bringing them back to a more functional state for living on in this realm. So I'm not going to go into too much details about that because that's their business. But to say that, yeah. So I was given this kind of opportunity a year ago, and to come out to this island, which is called St. Bart's. Now, various psychoses in my head. There's a hospital right near where I was living at the time, near where I was born, in East London. A hospital that is called St. Bart's in London, which is synchronicity, I suppose. I got wrapped up in this whole waking dream nightmare psychosis situation, where crumbs, how to explain this, the chronology. Okay, so I was at the airport, and there was a lot of energy. I felt very paranoid. I felt very watched. Yeah, I had substances with me to manage my anxiety and my nervous system for when I got out here. That's to say that I intended to traffic in illegal substances, illegal medicines, basically. My employer had made it clear that he didn't want me using, in his words, dope or coke, which I know that he knew that I like to puff on the old reefer, so that meant no cannabis or coke, and so I did not bring any cannabis or coke, but I brought tried to bring a mixture of other stuff, so things that help me regulate my nervous system depending on what I've got to do, whether it's socializing or working, or, well, it's basically those two, or like resting and sleeping, so 3, let's say. So I will use, or have in the past, a mixture of, okay, when I say a mixture, I mean like, not in one session necessarily, but over for different uses. Ketamine, amphetamine, so speed, which is basically, which is Adderall, actually. I mean, chemically, I believe they're identical. Ritalin, methylphenidate, that's ADHD medication was used for that. So those as stimulants. Well, ketamine's not a stimulant. Ketamine for introspection and also, like chilling me out in social situations that I find overwhelming, which that can be useful. Mushrooms, magic mushrooms, because I don't think they need any explanation. Ecstasy I find can be, or MDMA, as the purer sort of chemical product that provides the punch in ecstasy, let's say. What else? LSD. Kind of, I find it useful for, like, I feel like it helps me to deprogram, just to be like, it almost forces you into the present. I mean, unless you take, I suppose, huge amounts of it and are just hallucinating and sat in the corner of a room off your tits, seeing dragons and unicorns and stuff, but that's never happened to me. I've always been like pretty, functional, like able to like ride a bicycle or move my limbs in a coordinated manner. So yeah, I took basically a bunch of things with me, or tried to. Before that happened, I got, I missed my flight at the airport because of, I was just so paranoid and felt like half the airport was watching me. I felt like I was surrounded by the Illuminati and secret societies and police and whatnot, and I'm not in a position to say whether that was true or not. I mean, I'd be pretty surprised if there weren't Illuminati at airports, just in general, because there are kind of Illuminati everywhere, one might imagine. Again, like defining what that means, you've got Bavarian Illuminati, you've also got the Latinate, like the etymology of it, so people who are illuminated. I use it really more to mean people who, well, two things really. I suppose people who are like members of whatever, of the Illuminati, let's say, if that exists as a sort of a coherent, tangible organization, which says that, and then also people whose pineal glands are activated, functional, not calcified, so people who can see and or receive illumination perhaps through their pineal glands. So from that respect, I don't know what percentage of the population is Illuminati, but a percentage, it's a big part of my psychosis is doing my best to put my finger on these proportions to try and work out how reality works. Anyhow, so I felt very paranoid, stressed and whatnot, and ended up missing my flight. Made it through security, which was great, although felt like I needed to take some substances to get me through security, just because your awareness, certain things do increase your awareness. I mean, there's a reason that I was going to use cocaine as an example, but I mean, like traders, bankers, lawyers, high-powered, influential people, like they fucking love it generally, and it's not just because it's very addictive and can cause problems. It's because it can speed up your sort of processor speed. Let's say it can get a lot of shit done on it, and it can increase your increase certain capacities and faculties, and then reduce others. So I ended up missing my flight. That was fine, sort of. Got my baggage back. Had a big argument with my family because I thought that they were involved with all of this paranoia that I was going through at the airport, and I need to look at the CCTV from the airport really to recap. It was a year ago and a lot was going on. So anyhow, I remember being very intrigued and by, or perhaps just the notion, illuminated. Perhaps something came to me that was telling me that adrenochrome was everywhere. So maybe that's to say that there were lots of people at the airport who had consumed adrenochrome, or that was in their system. If you don't know what adrenochrome is, go have a little Google of it. But it's a very, very powerful, I'm gonna say neurotransmitter. It might not be a neurotransmitter. Stick with chemical. Very, very powerful chemical produced by your adrenal glands, and it can be harvested. I don't think it can be synthesized, which is an issue, sort of. But that has potentially has led to a situation where there are things going on that aren't particularly pleasant in order to produce enough adrenochrome to satisfy the demands of the let's say the elites. Again, then etymologically, I suppose elite comes from chosen, so let's say powerful people. I don't know, people that can afford it and don't have qualms with using it. Adrenochrome was a big theme. I remember thinking, also just found it amusing how I was stressed out about my little drugs parcel, which was kind of enough for one person for a week's festival, depending on your tolerance, but equally would be enough for one person for 2-3 days if they were a big user. Anyway, not I wasn't moving mountains. And I remember thinking, there's kilos, probably tons of drugs going through this airport every day. I think I remember hearing voices. There were other people who were stressed about the fact, presumably they had drugs on them and stuff. Again, I don't know how much of this is voices is real, ego, demons, higher selves, whatnot. It's really not that easy to say. So that was going on, and then what happened? I was just walking around the airport, partly looking for my I suppose let's say soulmate or something, who I thought might be in the vicinity, then something that added to my confusion was there was a Black Sheep coffee. If anyone is from the UK, they might be familiar with Black Sheep coffee. They are a coffee company, and reason I know of them mainly is that they have a thing where people can pay to give a homeless person or someone who doesn't have money a coffee. So when you buy your coffee, you can say, stick one on the tab for whoever else next comes in, and then people that ain't got the means can come in and get a free coffee. So there was a Black Sheep coffee there, and it looked kind of boarded up, and something was telling me to go to it, and I kind of opened the door. It was just a situation room, in terms of somewhere between a situation room and a studio, in terms of just a bunch of people on laptops. It looked like they were maybe between takes or shoots or something. But obviously I wasn't supposed to be there, so I was fairly quickly sort of shooed out, so I didn't really get a chance to figure out exactly what was going on. But they weren't making and serving coffee, let's put it that way. Maybe it was a simple misunderstanding and they were shooting some advert for Black Sheep Coffee or something, but I don't know. In my head, I thought they were shooting porn, which, yeah, is my, I guess, yeah, that's what I thought. And so then, yeah, I felt like just porn was being shot everywhere. And so there's that. And yeah, what happened then? Well, then I went to, there was another part of the airport that was in, it was in a chantier. It was like a, you know, they had wall up and were doing building works, and I like asked what was going on there because voices and stuff like shooting porn, and one of the builders goes, "It's a brothel, mate," which was kind of amusing, I suppose, or perhaps true in some ways. But yeah, I don't know what to make of all of that. And then shortly after that, you know, I'd been like loitering or wandering around an airport, even if I'm not being like, I'm not generally surrounded by Illuminati and whatnot, and that's a moot point. Then yeah, I would have been a bit surprised, I suppose, if I hadn't have caught the attention of like CCTV or people watching CCTV or even like AI that's monitoring it, just because I've been at the airport for a while, wandering about. And so some coppers come around and try and arrest me, or they ask what's going on, why I'm here, and at this point I don't have my passport because my parents had taken it back and I had refused to go home with them because I wanted to get on a flight to come here. So yeah, it was a bit of a mess, and the police then searched my luggage, and then eventually, yeah, they tried to arrest me. I'm not sure when they arrested me because, you know, arresting is a pretty technical thing. Like, you can fuck it up, and if you fuck it up, then it's like, yeah, it's not, yeah, causes legal difficulty. And I think that's why I know they fucked it up. I think technically I'm still on bail, but yeah, they took my searched my luggage, like not in front of me. Then they cuffed me, and then we were waiting around for ages, doing, I just don't know what. I don't know if they were just like, yeah, just chilling out. And they were cuffed in the airport for a bit, and then they took me to police station, and then I was in the police station for yeah, it was 24 hours. You know, there's no clocks and whatnot in the cells. Went through all that, and then eventually they let me go. I think they knew that I knew that they had cocked up the arrest, but they'd taken my phone, rifled through all my stuff. I didn't have they hadn't logged any of it in. Yeah, it was a mess. So then eventually they let me go after like 24 hours, and then they dropped me back at hospital. Yeah, I mean, the story goes on and on and on. But to take it to some sort of like interesting conclusion, or something to do with psychosis and it's a bit metaphysical, back to the St. Bart's Hospital link, was that my the kind of the bigger picture of the psychosis was that I ended up, and I don't know where I am with this. I think there's a lot of truth to it, and it could well be the reality. This conception that I was some sort of three-part being, or when I say I mean humans. You know, I'm human, and so when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about humans in general. That we're tripartite kind of beings. And we have our conscious selves on land, if you're a land being, not an Atlantean, and then your subconscious under the sea, and then your superconscious in the sky or in space. Look, this is my psychotic cosmology. You know, it's not based on anything particularly tangible. So I had this feeling that, that that this body is some sort of avatar, you know, and that I had a sort of space avatar and a sea avatar as well, some sort of sea monster under the water, and that perhaps we all have these three parts, but that we're just conscious in this avatar. We've got some sort of space being going on, a space version of ourselves. Oh, and then the space part is obviously run by the cats, okay? The cats are running the space bit. I don't know how, and they might not be, so take it with a pinch of salt. And yeah, now I'm here on, right, so rewind. So I thought that this was all going on, and that this was like an avatar, and that my real body was potentially in like a morgue or heavily sedated somewhere in the St Bart's Hospital in London, and that, yeah, it's a right raw mess, really. I don't know how much sense or anything you can glean from this, and yeah, here I am on the other St Bart's, not the hospital, St Bart's, and it's a year later. I still haven't seen my former employer, because I think after I got arrested at the airport, I was then I ended up in hospital, and yeah, the police took my phone. I wasn't in touch with him, and yeah, it was just a giant mess. I eventually ended up rebooking a flight and coming out here. I don't think he got that message. All of our stuff was through WhatsApp. I'm pretty paranoid about that. I don't know how hacked I am, or how much people interfere with what, or how it works from a power Illuminati sort of level as well, you know, in terms of, I'm not under the illusion that my WhatsApp is private, or any of my communication or life, to be honest, is private, apart from maybe some thoughts if I try really hard to keep them private, which I don't really tend to do, although I've been through phases of that. Yeah, so where to go from here, really? I don't, Oh yeah, drugs. So let's wrap it up with drugs. Where I am now, on an ultra wealthy, luxury Caribbean island. As you can imagine, there are drugs here. As there are in pretty much every part of the world that I have been to, as far as I can tell. And I think it would be a great place to, well, it's a great opportunity for sort of testing out decriminalization and legalization and codifying of drugs use, because there's no denying that it goes on on the island. So like any attempts to like eradicate seem particularly foolish. I mean, if you genuinely had a zero tolerance policy, and you followed through on it and executed it and stopped any drugs coming to the island, which wouldn't be that hard. It's a very small island. Like in terms of, okay, if you take corruption out of the equation and power dynamics and stuff, but from a material point of view, with AI and technology and sniffer dogs and whatnot, like you give me a week and a few million and I'm stopping anything coming in. Pretty well, yeah, actually, with AI and camera, like, yeah, easy. But that's not good. If you did that, and you wouldn't have an industry. I mean, you wouldn't have tourism here anymore. Basically, yeah, that wouldn't go down so well. And it could survive as an independent island. You know, currently my understanding, you know, just linked to, there's the French connection and support and a lot of yeah, mutual support. I would imagine. Yeah, I see it as an opportunity for that. So I might put some energy into seeing what the appetite for it is, if there is an appetite for it, with the local population and local government and whatnot. Because that's the biggest part of my psychosis, is drugs use and drugs legislation, because it's psychotic. Drugs legislation and drugs laws are psychotic. They don't work, and it's, well, I'm not going to go into explaining why, to be honest. But it's, yeah, the world isn't going to see any meaningful raising of consciousness or political change or whatnot until drugs are legalized. Legalized and safely regulated, and yeah, it's common sense. It's not. It doesn't take a massive effort. So yeah, I think that's enough for today. I have no idea what the sound will be like, whether you can hear any of this and quite how coherent it has been, but yeah, hopefully some people will have got an insight into my psyche, and might resonate with some of you, and maybe you've been through similar stuff or had similar paranoias or annoyas, and yeah, let me know what's up. All right, peace.